It's waiver wire time, ladies and gentlemen. My number one pick is Shannon's Killian Hayes, 28% roster, Detroit Pistons. Look, Nick and I did our Monday podcast, and we got so many questions about the Pistons. They are the number one team garnering the most questions from fans at this point. Do I drop Asar Thompson? Do I drop Beef Stew? What's going on with Duran? What's going on with Jay and Ivy? Look, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going on.
Monty doesn't know.
Monty doesn't know what's going on. He spins a wheel every morning to determine his starting lineup. But Killian Hayes has started the past 3 games. He started much of the season before that. He's averaging 16, 4, and 4 during this stretch. He's 28% rostered, so he's available in most leagues. I think he's just worth picking up just to see if it continues. Like, he is worth having on a 12-team roster if he's playing 30 minutes a game for his assists and steals upside. I'm not going to tell you that he won't start coming off the bench again, that his minutes won't continue to go back and forth, but it's at least worth acknowledging that he is starting now. Ken, who is your first suggestion?
Well, first, let me say, fans, if you like our videos, please hit like and subscribe below. I have 2 names that we mentioned last week, and I want to repeat in my first 2 picks this week. The first one is center Dereck Lively of the Dallas Mavericks. He's rostered in 55% of teams on Yahoo, so I'm cheating a little, but only 16% on ESPN. ESPN, get with it. The rookie is the starting center for Dallas. I can't stress that enough. He is their starting center. The Mavericks, like most teams, have 4 games next week. And in Lively's 4 games, since returning from a minor back issue, he's averaging 10.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, and here's the huge one, 3.3 blocks a game while shooting 83% from the field. Dunks from Luka tend to juice your field goal percentage. Look, there's an old team that needs some young legs, and Lively has that. Plus, finally giving the Mavs some rim protection.
Shannon, who is your first suggestion?
All right, I'm going to go with a guy that has been around for a while, Derrick Jones. He's bounced around between Phoenix, Miami, Portland, Chicago. He's in Dallas this year. Oddly, he's only 26. I swore he was older than that. But he's putting together a career year. He's basically been locked into the Mavericks starting lineup, starting all but 1 game this season. And he's picked up his production of late over the past 4 games, 3 of which were starts. He is averaging 16.8 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1 steal, and 3.3 three-pointers. He's shooting 56% from the floor and 80% from the line over that 4-game stretch. The Mavericks are going to have to find players that work well alongside Luka and Kyrie. Josh Green's out right now. Grant Williams out. So Derrick Jones is benefiting some from that. But he gives them a defensive presence on the wing. He can hit 3-pointers. I don't think the value is going to be sustained for a long stretch, but for as long as he's playing this way and playing 30 minutes or more per game, I think he's worth a look in definitely 14-teamers and possibly 12-teamers if it's a deep enough roster.
Alex, who's your second pick?
Alex Caruso of the Chicago Bulls, who is 39% rostered. Zach LaVine's out 3 to 4 weeks, which means 2 things. 1, Caruso's going to play more. 2, the Bulls are going to continue winning games. LaVine has missed the past 3 games. Caruso got hurt in the second game, but in the first and third game saw 29 minutes and 30 minutes, which is obviously very good. In just 24 minutes per game this season, Caruso was ranked 91st. So if he's seeing closer to 30 minutes per game for a month, you got to add him. Basically, he's mostly a steal specialist. He'll get you some blocks from the guard position and some assists as well. But he's in a really good spot with LaVine out for potentially up to a month and maybe having played his last game in a Bulls jersey. Ken, who is your second suggestion?
Also a repeat from last week. My apologies, but Saddiq Bey, starting forward for your Atlanta Hawks. He's 52% rostered on Yahoo, 20% on ESPN. he started the last 5 games for the Hawks, and over those starts, he's averaged 14.5 points, 6.5 boards, 2.6 triples, and 1.2 steals, while shooting a red-hot 58% from the field and 90% from the charity stripe. Hey, Jalen Johnson is out till after Christmas. Bey had a big 21.7 rebound game on Wednesday before the in-season stuff. And the Hawks have 4 games next week. Hey, Bey is a streaky outside shooter, but play him while he's hot.
I could confidently say the Pistons would have twice as many wins if Bey was still on the roster.
Well, Shannon, who's your second suggestion here before you go on a Pistons rant?
I'm gonna take my recommendations to South Beach and highlight Caleb Martin. The playoff breakout star for the Heat last year, 28-year-old forward. Caleb Martin started his first game for the Heat on December 6th against Toronto. Had a monster game, 24 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 9 for 16 from the floor, 4 for 7 from downtown, 46 fantasy points. His role has steadily grown since returning to action. He was out the first part of the season with an injury, but he's now played 10 straight games. I believe we will see Caleb Martin play about 28, 30 minutes per game for the Heat. He is definitely a hold in 14-team leagues. I think he's a pickup in 12-team leagues. I like Caleb Martin. I like what he can do for fantasy rosters, and I'm not a believer in Highsmith. So Haywood Highsmith has been the starting power forward. I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat just go with a smaller lineup moving forward. And I do think there's a chance Caleb Martin could stick in that starting spot for an extended stretch here.
Alex, who's your long shot for this week?
Marvin Bagley.
You cannot lay off those Pistons.
I know.
Gross.
9% rostered. I feel like I should have a down. Jalen Duran's out 2 weeks as a starter. Bagley's averaging 13 and 6. We have to see what the Pistons do tonight. I think that's important. Friday night, how they approach Duran being out. As we alluded to earlier in the show, Bagley has been starting, averages 13 and 6 with almost 2 assists and a block. That's fine to start, especially on a 4-game week in a 12-team league. But with Monty Williams, you just never know. Maybe they start Wiseman. Maybe they shift Isaiah Stewart up to the 5, bring in a new starting 5. So just see what the Pistons do tonight. But tentatively speaking, Marvin Bagley is an ad. Who's your long shot, Ken?
Today I shifted from my usual long shot to my more natural, boring pick of the week, which we used to also do in prior seasons. I'm going to go DFS. Dorian Finney-Smith is rostered in 25% of leagues. Finney-Smith now qualifies as a forward center on Yahoo. I don't know why, but he does. Brooklyn has 4 games next week. In DFS's last 5 games, 12 points, 6 boards, 2.2 stocks, which he's always been good at, and 2.6 threes over almost 33 minutes a game. He's also shooting 50% from the field. Frankly, the Nets needs Finney-Smith's defense in there. I think he's going to keep getting monster minutes. Just a nice streaming option when the Nets have 4 games, as they do this upcoming week. But it is boring. He lacks upside, but a nice, safe streaming option for you.
I like it, Ken. My long shot of the week, I'm going with Amen Thompson. I've been really thinking about it, praying, and that's the answer.
Wow.
He's been out, right? He's been out since early November with an ankle injury, but he is now healthy, and he is on assignment with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers in the G League. And he made his G League debut earlier this week and had an absolutely monster game. 29 points, 16 rebounds, 11 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks in 40 minutes. This guy is bonkers. He's the better of the, going into the draft, he was considered the better of the Thompson twins. And everyone saw how solid Asar was the first couple weeks of the season before Monty started tinkering with things in Detroit. Amen Thompson is more of a stash, though. 10-team, 12-team leagues, it's not even worth it. Your benches aren't deep enough. But if you're in a 14, 16 team league, deeper format where he is available and you have room on your bench to stash someone, he's more of a second half of the season guy as far as upside goes. I do think he's going to knock a guy like Aaron Holiday out of the rotation for the Rockets. And long term, he could even take minutes from guys like Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks had a great start to the season, and he's coming off a good game against Oklahoma City, but he has a lot of stinkers in between. And I wouldn't be surprised if this team, depending on where they are in the standings, want to start giving minutes to Thompson. He has the size, even though he was drafted as a point guard, played primarily as a point guard last year. He has size where they could plug him in at the 2 or the 3, and he'd play alongside Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet.